pod moth.
What time is it? Let me check my watch. Oh, it's bone o'clock. In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie the Spine Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn the Coccyx Heart.
Hey, the nasty bone.
Sorry, it's all I could think of. Sorry, everybody. Hi, welcome.
Welcome. I was thinking, this is the show where we talk about bones and bone-related topics. I thought you were going to go cranium, but I like coccyx.
It needed to be some kind of "k," like a strong "k," so coccyx.
I'm not sure if there are any bones that start with K, if I'm thinking about it. Knee bone?
I think there's got to be a more scientific name for it. Yeah, I can't think of one, but there probably is one that we don't know of.
Well, this is the secret treasure hunt of the podcast. If you know the bone that starts with K, message us on Instagram.
Please, we are dying to know.
Future Sophie here. I'm so sad to report there is no human bone that starts with the letter K.
So, we're coming to you raw and randy on a Wednesday night.
Yes.
And it's a hot mess in Seattle because it's dark outside all the time and everybody's upset.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. At the end of we had a big meeting at work today on Zoom, and I was attending it on my computer in the warehouse, and the CEO of the company was like, I'm going to try to, let you guys out early so you can catch a little bit of, daylight. And as she's saying this, I'm watching the sun just slipping behind big buildings in downtown. And I was like, there will be no daylight to be had, my friend.
Yeah. Even if you get out early, it's still nighttime.
Hell yeah. People walking around in their dark clothes and walking through the roads, scaring the crap out of me.
Yeah, put some reflectors on. Protect your fucking bones.
Yeah, those things are bones are at the same time very strong, but much more breakable than you think. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Them's fragile bones. Drink your milk. I guess we'll hop right into it. I'm feeling bony.
Yeah.
So I might as well break. So I'm going to start first. So last week, we talked about Tibetan sky burial, right? And I was feeling this vibe, so I was like, I'm going to move a little farther east for my next topic. So I decided, Katelyn, pack your bags, take a fucking coat. Even though they have the same weather as us, apparently, we going to Tokyo.
What?
Hell yeah! Let's go to Tokyo because we're going to talk about the grave of an ancient samurai.
Okay, I'm here for it.
And his ghost that might be causing problems to this day.
Yes, more of this.
Alright, so my sources for this were two really great YouTube videos from a channel called Linfamy, and I think they do a lot of videos that concern Japanese history and folklore. So if you want to get some good content, go and check out their channel. We have an Atlas Obscura article, one from Wikipedia, one from The Guardian, one from Japanese Wiki course, and then Fodors.com. I believe it is a travel website, but there's an accent over the O, I think, or over the, let me look at it right now. Yeah, no, over the S. So it's like, but then I was saying it fedoras.
I can't help you.
That can't be right.
I can't help you. I don't know. I took a few years of French in high school, and it has mostly left my brain.
Oh, no. Well, you don't have to worry about French right now, because we're nowhere near France.
That's good.
Actually, we're hanging out like among some skyscrapers near like a construction site near exit C4 of the Tokyo like underground system. And there's a little garden with some trees, and there's a big concrete square that is surrounded by hedges. And in the middle of that is a triple-stepped plinth, and on top of that is a stone carved with some ornate Japanese cursive and some images of some frogs.
Okay.
That'll make sense later.
So far, so good.
So this is the grave of the samurai warrior Tara no Masakoto, and he was a fierce samurai warrior belonging to the Tara clan. And this historian Carl Friday likes to call him the first samurai, even though he wasn't the first samurai. That's kind of hard and impossible to tell kind of who really started this tradition. But Tara no Masakoto was one of the first to enact this structure of going out and finding different warriors to fight with him in different war bands, and then having those like bands of people be loyal to him and like kind of bound to him. So in that way, he like founded the structure of being a samurai. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
You with me, dog?
Yes, I can't pretend to know the intricacies of samurai anything, but I'm here with you.
Neither do I. It's an extremely complex social structure that we won't super get into now.
Okay.
So the year of his birth is, of course, our favorite unknown.
Oh, wham, 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 wham.
But a lot of people will go ahead and put it around 900.
AD? BC?
So 900 AD. So he was a descendant of Emperor Kanmu, who reigned like 781 to 806. And this is important because his family was once very high status, and then they fell to a lower status and got the like clan name Tara. And when he was a young man, he kind of goes to work in the capital, and he starts to try to climb the ranks, but he doesn't really get very far, unfortunately. So he ends up going back home, but it's okay because he is a rich landowner and has a lot of servants and is breeding horses, which he sells to other rich people.
Yeah, you're fine, dude.
Yeah, and because of his like great horses that he's selling to everybody, he has a lot of money, but he also has a lot of like political influence with the nobles around. And around this time, he decides he's going to marry his cousin.
Yeah, sure.
Which we know how that goes, right?
It happens all the time in history. I don't like, if it happens now, I don't like it. If it happens in history, I'm okay with it sometimes.
If it's any time before, like, cutoff for me is like 1890.
Oh, wow.
Like,
you're pretty strict.
When are you cutting it off? Like 1830?
I don't have a number in mind.
When is your cousin cut off?
My cousin and I will never get married. That's the answer.
No, it's not you and your cousin.
Oh.
I'm saying for cousins in general.
Oh. Sorry, it's not about me. Probably, I don't know, like, I'm gonna put it at 1900.
Okay, so only 10 years after.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm so strict. All right. So, and I'm such a prude.
Yeah, God.
All right. So he marries his cousin, right? And it's before 1900, so it's totally fine.
We're okay with it.
Yeah. And this ends up causing kind of a problem because when he marries his cousin, he is kind of expected to go kind of pick up all of his shit and go move to her house and live with her family and live under the power of her dad, basically, which was customary at the time. That's kind of how it went. You went and you lived with your wife's family. But our guy was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I kind of have a good thing going. I'm going to stay here with my wife and my family and do my thing. And his uncle was super displeased about this. It was a big slight on him. It was very offensive. And they end up starting a family feud over this. And then that feud kind of turns into a war.
Okay.
You know? Like you do. Because this Tara family had a lot of different branches, and so there was enough people to take sides and fight each other about it.
Sure.
And this is significant also because it was one of the first times in Japanese history that Japan was fighting within itself versus fighting outsiders. So this was kind of a big deal Civil War situation.
Yeah, what was the year again?
So we're in the 930s right now.
Okay.
And so these are escalating into full-scale battles, this feud. And these would actually end up being known as Masakoto's rebellions. And it was mostly between our guy and his father-in-law / uncle, Yoshikane.
Okay, I was wondering how the uncle / I was like, why is the uncle so upset? It's because he's also the father-in-law that our main character won't live with.
Yes. He married his cousin, and the cousin's dad, who is his uncle, is also his father-in-law.
Of course. I didn't catch that on the first go-around, but now I see.
Now do you feel me?
I feel you. Ja feel.
So he starts this series of rebellions around 935. And during this time, he announces that the sun goddess has chosen him, and he is proclaiming himself emperor. And he goes ahead, kills a local governor, and seizes 2 northern provinces.
Oh, thank you. What?
Yeah, and crazy rumors and legends start spreading around him. He's said to be invulnerable except for the top of his head, where his mother, who was a snake, had failed to lick him.
What?
Japanese folklore fucking rules. There's gonna be a lot of it in this, and it's very good.
Nice.
It was also said that plagues of butterflies were, a warning of his, revolt, and that, rainbows broke out simultaneously in the capital to these swarms of butterflies, which is, those are pretty, chill omens for a revolt.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a plague. I would call that a good time.
Right? But, all of this pales in comparison to the reality of the fact that he was super good in battle and killed a lot of folks.
Okay, yeah. I figured if he's a big time samurai, he's gotta be good with a sword.
Yeah, that's his whole thing. And so he establishes a new dynasty, but about 2 months later, he is led into battle with the emperor's troops. And the emperor does not like this guy. He thinks that he's kind of a traitor. He thinks our guy is a traitor. So he puts a price on Tara no Masakoto's head. And one of Masakoto's cousins is like, I'll take that bet. And he goes and he, in battle, decapitates our guy.
Oh no, he's dead already.
This is anything bones. He's gonna beef it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're talking about his grave. All right. It's just so soon.
I know, it's sad.
So soon.
I know, right?
I thought he was gonna really kill some people before he got killed.
Well, wait.
Okay.
You wait and see if you're disappointed by this. So they take the head to the capital where they hang it from a tree in the marketplace.
Okay.
And so during this time, his legend begins to spread among the lands that he was active in, and people start making him into a folk hero because he had a tragic death, he had a lot of beef in his family, there were a lot of legends swirling around, and he was seen as standing up for a more downtrodden area of the country and seen as someone who defended weaker factions, and people really ran with that. And after his death, these legends only became more supernatural in nature.
Okay, here we go.
This is my favorite story that kind of involves him. It is about his daughter. So his daughter, her name is Takayashi, and she was said to have escaped. After he gets beheaded, the enemy forces are gunning for her and her brother, because they don't want them left alive to make their own rebellion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just a never-ending cycle.
Exactly. So she goes off to live in the ruins of his old fortress, and she starts dabbling in necromancy.
Oh, shit.
I know. So one night she goes to this old shrine, and she starts asking the gods for help. And at the first night, she gets no answer. So she goes back and she does this for 21 nights. And on the 21st night, she gets an answer.
Oh my god.
This deity comes and he like fills up the room and he's like, hey, what's up? And she's like, I would like to avenge my father. And he's like, we can work with that. And he's like, but I'm going to give you a new name. And she's like, okay, cool. And so he names her Takayashi Hime, which means, we don't know what her name was before. That's why I have been calling her Takayashi this whole time. But her name means waterfall demon princess.
Whoa. Waterfall
Yeah.
demon princess?
Demon princess, yeah.
Whoa. What?
I know, so metal and cool.
What demon is involved with a waterfall? I can't picture it.
I don't know. It may make more sense if we were more familiar with Japanese
Yeah, that
folklore.
makes sense. That totally makes sense.
There's another version of this story that is very frog heavy.
Hence the frogs on the grave?
Yeah. So her brother's in the forest and he meets this other guy who's like, I'm friends with your dad, and gives him a scroll, and he gives the scroll to his sister, and the scroll teaches his sister frog magic.
What?
Yes. And there's a pun in here that we're not getting because we do not speak Japanese.
Sure.
Because frog, keru, is a pun on the word return, which is kind of like vengeance, like revenge. So like frogs, revenge, it makes more sense if you speak Japanese.
Yeah, sure.
So she has magic powers and she decides to summon, back into the original story, she has magic powers. She decides to summon an army of monsters.
Okay.
And regular dudes. There's some just regular dudes in there too.
We'll take anybody.
Honestly. And so people at the palace get wind that something is happening up at like the old fortress. And so they send a guy and a small army. And they're like, guy, go check it out. And he's like, okay, can do. So he goes up to the fortress. He meets with Takayashi Hime. And he starts talking to her and being like, and she doesn't introduce herself as herself. She's just like a hot lady who's like, hey, you want to come to dinner? And so he starts suspecting who she is and like being like, yeah, it was really great when like, you know, your dad got killed and he got beheaded and it was so great. And she gets very upset and runs out. And he's like, I'm going to follow her. Ha 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 ha. His mistake. Because she runs out onto an old battlefield that her father, like many of his people, were like slain upon. And she gathers up all of her awesome magic powers and raises a giant skeleton made of all of the skeletons of the fallen on this battlefield. I am not joking.
Mega bone.
Mega bone. In fact, I have a woodblock print to send you of that. And this is actually like a monster in Japanese folklore called the Gasha Dokoro, which is like big skeleton. Are you looking at the picture?
I'm mesmerized. It is so beautiful but scary. It's
terrifying.
All these people that are clearly terrified of a giant skeleton that's like just caught them. I don't know. It looks like they were trying to hide behind something, and this skeleton was like, not today.
No fucking chance. Because this monster is awesome. Because these are the powers for this giant skeleton. It can crush you, or it's gonna bite your head off and drink your blood. It can turn invisible. And the only way you know it's coming is if you can hear it's like rattling little bones. This thing can't die.
Yes.
You have to wait for it to tire itself out and fall apart.
Shoot. So, on the far left of this picture, is that our girl?
Mm-hmm. I believe so, yeah, with the scroll.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of scrolls involved.
Yeah, cool.
And so basically she and her army of monsters crush this other army handily. Also, she's riding a giant toad.
So she's got giant skeletons and giant toads?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
We love this, right?
Yeah. I would like to see some kind of picture of that, but I'll just have it in my mind's eye.
Just picture our bad bitch with her hair flowing in the wind. She's holding a scroll and she's riding on a toad and she's kind of standing up and maybe she has a sword in the other hand for our listener. All right. So back to our friend Masakoto. He was decapitated, like we said, and his head put on display near a river bank in Kyoto. And it's said that this head would open its eyes and keep grinding its teeth for like months.
No.
After he was decapitated.
No.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And they said that it showed like no signs of decomposition. And every night it would cry, "Where is my body?
Oh my God.
Come here and fight me!
Oh my God.
Come here and fucking fight me!" It's like, guy, you're a head.
Oh my God.
I can't.
Yeah, that's
I can't.
that's pathetic.
But you know what solved it?
What?
A poet came and sang it a song.
Oh. The poet sang a song to the head?
I mean, yeah. And then, of course, at this time, the head laughed, and there was a big earthquake and thunder and lightning, and the head said, "I need to get back to my body and go to battle. Where is my body?" And then the head flew off the stake and bounced around, and that's why it is not buried with the rest of his body.
Okay.
So there's a temple in Gifu that marks the spot where where legend says a local warrior took an arrow and shot the head down from its flight.
What?
I told you! This is a buck wild story.
Yeah, this is craziness.
And it's all historically accurate. And so it comes to land in like this obscure fishing village, and the locals find it, they wash it, and they give it like a proper burial, and they put like charms around the grave of this head to make sure that it doesn't escape. But unfortunately, the village ends up having bad luck for years and years to come after that.
Like a plague of butterflies bad luck, or?
No, I think like people having bad accidents bad luck.
Yeah, that sucks.
And it was interesting because fast forward a bit to the Middle Ages, 1300s-ish, there were a lot of reports of like weird supernatural occurrences happening around Masakoto's like burial mound. And in order to kind of like silence the people's fear and to like silence his ghost, they actually ended up enshrining him as a god. So he went from folk hero to god in 1309.
Wow. And this is just his head? Like, we don't know where the rest of his body is?
The rest of his body is in Tokyo. The head is, like, up in a fishing village.
Okay.
Supposedly.
Got it. Where the temple is.
Yeah. We'll have a photo of the shrine in Tokyo up on the Instagram. I forgot to get one for you right now, Caitlin. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So fast forward a little bit more to 1874. We have a new government, and they don't like Masakoto and the power that his, like, rebellious spirit has within the people.
Huh.
Right? And so they kind of revoke his god status. And then the finance ministry burned to the ground in an earthquake in 1923. And they're like, this is Masakoto. This is him.
What?
This is his doing. Yeah. And I believe this is the building, like, near his grave. And that building was eventually replaced, but then accidents, falls, and mishaps ended up killing 14 people in 5 years, including the finance minister himself.
Well, he shouldn't have dealt with money. I don't know.
Well, here's what happened is that officials ended up confessing that they had bulldozed the grave, his grave, during construction.
That's not gonna work out.
But then after the finance minister died, they were like, okay, we gotta quickly restore the grave.
Yeah,
like,
clearly.
This is not cool. Yeah, so in 1928, they end up holding like a purification ceremony, but they forget to put the stone slab that was carved with the spells to like keep him trapped back on the shrine. And so they think that is why in 1940, 9 nearby offices were destroyed by a lightning strike.
Because the slab wasn't there?
Because they forgot to put the last piece on.
Okay. Shoot. Yeah, I hate when that happens.
They put the stone back on, right? But then in 1945, there's construction going on nearby and a bulldozer overturns and kills the bulldozer driver.
Shoot. Yeah, this sounds pretty cursed.
Yeah. So honestly, there is a lot of like financial stuff that's going on with this as well. Mitsui Financial Corporation tried to sell the mining rights to Masakato's land, the like land that he owned, or I think his grave. No, it must have been the land that he owned. But then in 2002, that company filed for bankruptcy. And what's funny is that a branch of that bank, that financial company, is in Tokyo and it's next to his grave, right?
Oh, God. Yeah, we've come full circle there.
Yeah. But mysteriously, somehow, in the early 2000s, a bank account is set up for him.
What? For the head? For
the guy.
For our guy.
For Tara no Masakoto, yes.
What? What's he gonna do with money?
Well, the bank starts putting funds into this account, and then that account is used to maintain the grave that is there by the building. And a kind of last capstone to this is that he is not all bad. He is not always striking people down with lightning or killing finance ministers. You know how we talked about how there were a lot of frogs going on with his grave?
And the giant frogs that his daughter rode?
Yes, all the frog-heavy content.
Mm-hmm.
So in one legend, it is said that he had power over frogs, toads specifically, but the frog makes it a pun in Japanese. But a tradition that has kind of sprung up is that when office workers go, remember the Japanese word for frog means to return?
Uh-huh.
When Japanese businessmen go on trips, like for work, or they're going out of the city or whatever, they come and bring a frog to this shrine as a little charm to be like, I will return and return safely.
Huh.
So I thought that was kind of a fun button on it. You know, it's not all giant skeletons. Sometimes it's just coming home safely from a journey. But I just wanted to share some of this buck wild Japanese folklore with you.
No, that's fucking awesome. I love that we went to Japan.
Yeah, and I feel like I learned a lot about Japanese folklore and about Japanese puns.
Yeah, more than I knew.
And the giant invisible skeleton is my favorite monster now by far.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the giant skeleton's gotta move over for a little ad break. We'll be right back.
Oh my god, this ad is bigger than this skeleton!
What the fuck?
Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And we are Twisted Listers, a weekly podcast about murder.
And lists.
Each week, we choose a new topic and we cover 10 cases all under that common theme.
We've done incredible fun topics like family annihilators,
Cannibals,
killer grandmas,
and we've also done survivor stories for those of you that like a more uplifting tale. So if this sounds like your kind of party, join us every Monday wherever you like to listen to podcasts. So yeah, we hope you tune in and we hope that you stay
off
our lists. Bye.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to take you from the spooky shores of Japan over to a lake in Finland.
Ooh, we got a lot of water-based bones this time.
We do. I don't know why. And international.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch all the parts of the world, you know, because there's not one place on this planet where there ain't fucking bones.
Yeah. So we're in Finland, right? I am going to tell you about a murder that took place in the 60s. This is called the Lake Bodom murders.
Ooh.
Which I
don't think I've heard of this.
I hadn't either, but it's pretty buck wild also, so strap in. I think I'm saying Bodom right. It's spelled Bodom. That's kind of what it sounded like in my sources, so I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, sorry, Finland. Please forgive me.
I would love if a Finnish listener came to correct you, because we would know that they were there.
That would be cool, yeah. All right, so my sources for this were an article from All That's Interesting, and then from historicmysteries.com, and then I listened to 2 podcasts about this murder. One was from my ladies over at Morbid. That's just my favorite podcast right now. It was way back. It was episode 16, and they're in like the 200s now.
Damn.
And then I listened to an episode of Case File, which is a really good true crime podcast. The tiniest bit dry, but very informative. And that was, I'm sorry, Case File. I'm just being honest.
I'm sorry, Case Files.
That it was just a lot of facts, which I needed, but was also like, oh my god, what's going on? I'm falling asleep. It was episode 194, if you want to get real deep into this crazy murder. So this took place on June 4th, 1960. Unfortunately, the victims were pretty young. In this case, 3 of the victims were killed, and 1 actually survived. So 15-year-old Ermeli and Tuulikki, they are young Finnish girls. They are on a camping trip with their 18-year-old boyfriends. Their names are Seppo and Nils. They all had beautiful Finnish last names, but I'm just gonna breeze right past it out of I don't know. It's not out of respect. It's out of not wanting to get it super wrong.
I thought you were going to say, and they all had beautiful blonde hair.
Well, they probably did. So they are camping on the shores of Lake Bodom, and sometime in between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. on June 5th, unfortunately, Ermeli, Tuulikki, the 2 girls, and then Seppo were murdered. They were stabbed and bludgeoned to death through their tent. So the person who attacked them didn't even wait for them to come outside. They just started fucking stabbing and hitting at random. That's how the attack started. And then Nils, the other 18-year-old boy, he was alive, and he's still alive actually. He had a concussion, a fractured jaw, and several broken facial bones. So people kind of saw this crazy scene and didn't really do anything about it at first. Some reports said that...
What?
Yeah, so people saw from afar that this tent was collapsed, and it looked like there were some people around the tent and maybe inside the tent, and they might have seen Nils kind of stirring. But eventually this does get called into the police. It takes them an hour to get there, so police arrive 6 hours after the estimated time of death.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, like I said, the tent is it's really fucked up. It's all ripped and shredded, but then it's also collapsed. It wasn't a very fancy tent, it seems like, and I actually have a picture, so hold on one second. So this is a picture of the tent. The source I got this from said this was one of the only crime scene photos that was actually taken, because guess what? They handled this terribly in Finland.
Oh, Finnish cops. How do you say ACAB in Finnish? Is this, I'm guessing that's blood?
Yes.
That's all over
Yeah.
the outside of the tent? I am sorry.
Yeah.
But, like, this looks like a white or light colored. The photo's black and white. So, like, it's hard to discern a lot of detail, which is nice because it's not too horrific. But, like, you can definitely tell the tent is slashed to absolute shit. It's covered in blood. Yeah, it's small, too.
Yeah, so...
That fit 4 people? Sleeping on top of each other.
Well, yeah, it was 2 young couples. They were just there for the night, maybe 2 nights. They were just there to have fun. The boys had some booze with them, or they were just having a good time, as you do. It sounds like the girls didn't want to drink, and one of them had a journal that she had written in, like, my boyfriend's drunk.
That's such a 15-year-old girl thing.
So the setup... So Tulikki and Seppo are together, and their bodies are found, inside the tent, or rather the, crumpled up version of the tent. And then Ermeli and Nils is alive, remember? They are found kind of on top of the tent. Ermeli is naked from the waist down, and she was unfortunately also she took the brunt of the attack. She had clearly been stabbed even after she was dead. It seemed like they all kind of died of blunt force trauma, but there was a knife involved too. So it's a really brutal, scary attack.
Yeah, this seems like the absolute worst nightmare, worst case scenario.
Absolutely crazy. And it wasn't a remote campsite. There were people not that far away. People saw them before they were murdered. Some people also thought they saw a man with long blonde hair leaving the scene. So who knows? We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
There were also some weird things missing from the scene. The keys. So both of the boys drove motorcycles, which is so, love.
Of course they
They're
did.
18.
They're European teenagers.
European teens.
They're Euro teens. And they're motorcycles.
They put their girlfriends on the back of their bikes and they went out to the lake to have a nice time. And they were all gonna just snuggle right in together in this tiny ass tent.
Oh, I wish that's what had happened.
I do too.
I wish that they'd woke up the next morning and made each other breakfast.
Yeah. So the keys to the motorcycles were gone, but the bikes were there. So that was kind of weird. They also found some shoes and clothes that belonged to some of them, a few hundred feet away from the scene of the crime. So that was kind of weird too. Why are their clothes kind of scattered? I think it said 500 meters away, which is just kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got a weird fucking scene. We've got a weird murder. And guess what? The police just make it even worse by not really doing their job. They didn't cordon off the area. Morbid actually said that they asked the public for help, searching the crime scene, right away, which I was what? But one way or the other, this crime scene got completely destroyed. They didn't take a lot of pictures. They don't have a lot of evidence. And they tried to bring the military in to search for some reason. It's you can't do your job. It just doesn't make sense. It sounds like they were asking for help and wasn't getting any better. And maybe they weren't the people to be dealing with this.
They need the Finnish FBI.
I guess. I don't know what the Interpol. I don't know.
I don't know.
So, of course, there were a lot of suspects about who did this. I'm going to go through some of them now. So kind of the most, well, I won't say most interesting, but certainly the most controversial. So Nils himself was actually suspected of the murder, and he wasn't charged with this until March of 2004.
And this happened in the 1960s?
It happened in 1960. Right? So he claims that he has a limited account of what happened that night because he was attacked. He had a concussion, fractured jaw, broken facial bones. He was roughed up. He wasn't in good shape. So it's kind of hard for me to believe that he was that injured and also managed to overpower and kill 3 people so violently.
Yeah. It's hard because, like, how did he get hurt? Was it the other people fighting back against him while he was doing the murder? Or was he attacked himself? The first thing I thought was, is it him?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. So here, let's get into it a little bit. After the murder happens, he's interrogated, and then fucking nothing happens for 44 years. He lives his life, he gets married, he's like a bus driver, and has no criminal record at all. So the police are like, oh, we've actually suspected him all along, so joke's on you guys. It only took us 44 years to figure all this out and get the evidence, so fuck you. So police claim that Nils' shoes were worn by the killer, like, during the attack, because they were covered in the victim's blood, but not any of Nils' blood. So what the prosecution is thinking what they're trying to spin is that Nils and Seppo, who are like really good friends, got in a big fight, maybe drunkenly, like, we don't know, it doesn't really matter. And that culminated in a triple homicide somehow, like this fight between friends. They also claimed that Nils was like so drunk that his friends were like, you gotta get out of here. And so then maybe like he got physical with Seppo, and Seppo, like, the only thing to do was kill all of them. Doesn't really make sense, but
yeah, the more you go through it, it's very hard to justify why and how he could do it, especially if he was super fucked up.
Yeah. Like, I think it was Case File that said that, like, allegedly he might have had a condom with him, so, like, maybe he was trying to have sex with his girlfriend and she didn't want to, and then Seppo got involved, and that's a theory, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, I guess if he rage killed his girlfriend because she rejected having sex with him, I guess that leads him to kill the other two, but it's just so brutal and outrageous.
Yeah,
like,
it's really a lot. And it just seems like it's so much overkill. So the prosecution also thinks that, like, he stabbed himself and then just, like, fell on top of the tent and then waited to be found, I guess. Like, and they're just saying, like, oh, he injured himself, or, you know, the injuries are from this fight that he had with his friend Seppo. Like, they can all be explained away. While it logically, it's like he's the only person that lived. He apparently the only other person there, but at the same time, I just don't really see the motive for it.
Yeah, truly. And you have to be a special kind of fucked up in the head to, like, lie with your friends' corpses for hours.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't want to believe that someone could do this on just, like, a fun camping trip with their friends, but, I mean, I don't know these people,
yeah.
But it just...
Yeah, we have no idea what went on that night.
What we do know is that Nils is acquitted. They do not find him guilty of this crime. So he just got dragged through the mud for maybe nothing. Yeah. If he did do this, like, how fucked up is that he lived for 44 years, no problem, and then got away with it? Like, it's all bad.
And I assume they have similar laws to us that you can't double try someone.
I didn't look into that, but I would assume so. That seems like it would be standard. I don't know.
Yeah. It's super fucked if he didn't do it, and it's super fucked if he did.
Yeah. So there are more suspects, and every one of them is just, like, weirder and weirder than the last. But I also could see pretty much any of them doing this. So another suspect, he is a criminal named Pentti Soninen. He confesses to the murders to a fellow inmate in his prison. He actually lived near the site of the murders at Lake Bodom. I think it's Lake Bodom. And he confesses, but also he was 14 at the time. So a 14-year-old overpowers 4 other teenagers and manages to murder 3 of them and very critically injure one. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure. He would have to been a beefy boy.
So He also hung himself on the 9th anniversary of the murders. So that was pretty suspicious.
Oh.
And he confessed, but I don't think he did it because he was 14 at the time.
He must have had, I don't know, that's so strange. When people falsely confess to stuff, like, I don't know, it's so interesting to me. If it was a false confession.
Right. So the other suspect is this guy named Carl Gillstrom. I believe he runs a kiosk near Lake Bodom, and he has a intense hatred for campers and for children, and he will straight up throw rocks at people if he feels like it.
Then why does he do what he does?
Unclear.
Is this kiosk his only asset in life and he does not know how to sell it?
I don't know. It sounds bad. It sounds bad. So, again, we have another person confessing to this fucking murder. Apparently, while he's drunk, he confesses to a neighbor, although he denies it later. And then when they peel back the layers, turns out a few days after the murder, he is seen pouring concrete into a well in his backyard. What's he doing with all that? Why is that happening?
I don't know.
Now, the only reason that police kind of let him go initially was because his wife gave an alibi for the night of the murders, saying he was at home all night, laying in bed. Unfortunately, on her deathbed, she retracts this.
What?
Yes, like she's about to die. She's about to beef it. And she's like, actually, he wasn't there, and I'm pretty sure he killed those people at Lake Bodom.
I mean, gosh, he's sounding like the best one. How old was he? Was he like 7?
No. No, he was old enough to own a kiosk, so there.
I'm sorry, I forgot about his great kiosk that he hates.
Yeah, so this is really weird. So allegedly, I don't know about this. This guy, Carl, tells another friend that he did commit this murder. He keeps going back and forth, apparently. And the friend is like, well, if you're responsible, then you should go drown yourself, because otherwise you're going to spend the whole rest of your life in prison. And he goes to Lake Bodom, and he fucking drowns himself in it.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is so hard.
Yeah. It's insane. I don't understand.
Okay, here's my running theory. Are you ready?
Yes.
Nils gets into a fight with his friend, storms by the kiosk and says, I hate my friends. I wish they would die.
Shit.
Then the kiosk man goes and kills them with the assistance of 14-year-old other guy.
God, you've cracked it. You've cracked it.
I've done it. Finnish police, give me your badge and gun.
All right, I got one more suspect for you.
Oh, but my theory.
You're going to like this one, because this guy's name is
Okay.
Hans Assmann.
His name is what now?
Hans Assmann. Assmann. How else do you pronounce that? It's Assmann.
It's Assman. I feel such a confliction in my body because you're telling me about Hans Assman, the man with the best name ever, who might be guilty of a terrible murder.
Yeah. So, on June 6th, 1960, so like the day after the murder, he checks in to the local hospital, and he is covered in a reddish substance, probably blood. Doctors were like, yeah, that's fucking blood. And his fingernails were like caked in black, like grit. He pretends to be unconscious a few times at the hospital because he wants like the doctors to see him faster. So he's just like a weird, frustrating, manipulative person. He also is very hostile towards the staff, and they end up asking him to leave, which I'm like, I work at a doctor's office, so I'm like, I relate to this. Although I've never been able to ask anybody to leave.
I bet you wish you could.
He also had long blonde hair, which he suspiciously chopped off after the description of a blonde person maybe leaving the scene of the crime was released.
I mean, but it's Finland. That could be anyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with long blonde hair. So he was reportedly a KGB spy, and yes.
Oh my god, this is the best one.
He has been a murder suspect before. He definitely doesn't have a clean record. He was suspected in the murder of a 17-year-old Finnish girl in 1953. And my source here says the police also linked him to at least 3 other unsolved cases. Not sure what that means. So people thought that he was involved, but also thought that because he might have been a KGB spy, that Finland didn't want to fuck with Russia in any way whatsoever. So he just wasn't investigated, is the theory.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because honestly, like, Kiosk Guy is pretty convincing, especially with his death figured into it. But this guy seems like a real psycho. And he has a history of killing teenage girls before.
Exactly.
And so, like, to me, that says, A, if he's a KGB agent or former or alleged, don't come for me, please, that he would have the know-how to kill 3 people, almost 4, and just dip.
Yeah.
Because that seems their speed.
Yeah. So I have one last thing, and I think it's going to blow your fucking mind.
All right, I'm strapped in.
So we've got all of our suspects, right? A lot of them sound pretty good. Because remember the first guy, not Nils, but the guy after him, what was his fucking name? I just glossed right over him.
The 14-year-old?
Yeah, the 14-year-old. His name was Penty. He killed himself on the anniversary of the murders too. So it's just a really, really, really weird story. I just okay, this is the last crazy part. So when Nils was first released from the hospital, he didn't really remember a whole lot about the incident, or at least he said he didn't. I believe him myself. He was hypnotized, and then they did a sketch, or a series of sketches. I'm going to send the sketches to you now, and warning, they are really creepy.
Oh Lord. Oh God.
Yeah, it's a really it's
no.
really scary. He's got this really wide face, really scary wide lips, big forehead. I don't know. Go to our Instagram or our website and look at this picture because it's a really weird series of sketches.
The eyes are very terrifying. The brow is very terrifying. The whole vibe does say, I will kill you and all your friends.
Yeah, this sketch does look like a monster.
Yes.
And so, I have one last picture to send you. And this picture was allegedly taken at the funeral of the 3 murder victims.
No.
Look at it.
Oh my fucking God. Who the fuck is that?
Yep.
Who the fuck is that? That's him.
Right?
That's the fucking guy.
Okay, so...
That's the fucking guy.
Yeah, I told you.
That's the guy. I had my seatbelt on, but bitch, I flew through the windshield. This is not cool.
This is too much.
Who is that guy?
Okay, so for you listening at home, if you don't have access to a computer or a phone right now, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to immediately look up this picture on our Instagram or our website because it is a spitting image of the sketch. So it's this crowd of people, and a lot of people are looking down. It's a funeral that's very solemn. And then you see right in the middle this scary dude with crazy wide eyes, those big wide lips, a kind of fucked up jaw. And he's looking off, kind of away from where everybody else is looking. So you're what's going on there? And he looks exactly like the sketch, which looks like a monster.
Is this picture real?
That's as real as it gets, as far as I know.
He's terrifying and he's real.
And at first, I look at this and I'm okay, maybe it's the camera was moving or something and it jiggled and he looks weird. But look at the faces around him. They're faces. They're normal looking faces. They're blurry, but they're normal. His face is haunting.
Yeah. That's why I was asking whether or not you thought it was real, because he just looks...
But this picture was taken in the 60s. How would they have photoshopped? How would they have done any of this? this is a picture. Like, I'm pretty sure they would have, it's
terrifying. Who is he? Who is he?
We'll never know.
And why is his bone structure so terrifying?
I don't know. But that is the case of the Lake Bodom murders, which are, to this day, unsolved. And it is Finland's most notorious cold case.
Wow, that was fantastic, Katelyn. Holy shit.
Thank you.
Consider my mind blown. I don't know who did it. I couldn't tell you. But that guy, the likeness between the sketch and the photograph is chilling. Because sometimes you see these, like, when they catch these murderers, even if it's like 50, 60 plus years, like if you look at the sketch of the Golden State Killer versus like a picture of the guy, but sometimes these sketches just don't look like people. They just like don't look like people. You're like, how the hell are you gonna find that motherfucker?
Yeah. Or they look like everybody. That's like part of it,
yes,
you know?
Exactly.
This sketch looks like nobody, and then that picture of a crowd
That's that
also
guy.
looks like nobody. Like it's monstrous, and I dare you to look at it on our Instagram or on our website.
Yeah, we have limited daylight, so please look at this picture in a fully lit room, because right now I am in a cold, dark room, and I swear to God that guy's gonna jump out of my fucking closet and tear my face off. I do not like him.
I know, I don't like him either.
I don't like him. But who did it?
I know. Who did it?
Who do you think? What does your gut say? Like, what are you thinking? Like, you've done the research, you've looked over the case. Like,
so, my guess is that it's Assman. It's the guy who was the KGB spy who nobody wanted to investigate because they didn't want to get on the wrong side of the KGB, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that hospital thing the next day, he's covered in blood. He was, obviously, if he was murdering people in the woods, he's going to have shit under his nails. He's acting like an asshole. And then,
but the guy who drowned himself in the lake.
I know. Hold on. Let me, I'm going to go back to one of my sources really quick, but there is a picture of Assman.
I gotta see Assman.
Yeah.
I gotta see Assman.
Yeah.
It's unfair that he should have such a silly name and be potentially such a horribly dangerous person.
I know.
That's unfair to me.
That is unfair to me.
To me personally.
Here he is.
Alright, let's get a load of the Assman.
Shot.
Ugh, I'm looking at the guy again.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm having trouble screenshotting on my iPad. Hold on.
You're such an old woman.
No. Can you take a screenshot on an iPad? Oh my god,
Of course you can.
There we go. For the love of God. Cut all this out.
It's Masakato's ghost.
Alright, here's Assman.
Okay. Here's the thing about Assman. Is that guy in the crowd could be him.
I know. It kind of looks like him.
Is if you, were to put this guy's face, Assman, he's got the terrible wide eyes and the frightening brow and a little bit of the nose. He does not have the lips, but he does have the big-ass forehead.
Well, yeah,
so,
and maybe he had some fucking injuries from the murder, and so he looked all fucked up.
Fucked up his face.
Fucked up his face, because maybe somebody fought back, you know? Like,
exactly.
It's really scary, but I think that it was probably Assman, or the guy that drowned himself in the lake that, kept confessing to it and then retracting it, and also filled in his well right after the murders happened. He filled in his well with concrete, and nobody ever
Do you
looked.
think that
nobody ever went and looked at it? I'm please, can somebody in Finland go fucking dig up this concrete well and look in there and see if there are keys to some motorcycles
or fucking the murder weapons?
Yeah, the murder weapons were never found. They were definitely stabbed and they were hit with something. We don't know what. They never found it, and they never solved this fucking case.
That's so frustrating. I mean, it's an extremely difficult case, but they also bungled it themselves, you know? I don't know, it's so hard because it feels like so many people want to claim this murder or were, traumatized by it. That's what I think might have happened with those two guys who ended their lives, is that either the the first guy was a young man when it happened. And if he lived locally, that could have been very traumatizing to him and fucked him up in some way.
I think, yeah.
Same with the other guy. Because Assman just seems so dangerous. And, like, the fact that they don't want to prosecute him because of his connections with Russia.
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, allegedly, but come on.
Maybe.
Come on.
Allegedly. Allegedly. No, allegedly. Yeah, we don't know anything. Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to be thinking about that one for ages.
Sorry. I know, I can't stop thinking about it either. I read some articles about it, but then I listened to some podcasts about it, and that really, really sold it for me. I was like, I have to tell Sophie about this.
Yeah, bitch, that's going to haunt my dreams. That's what I'm going to be thinking about when I'm folding clothes at work. I'm going to be like, who did it?
So sorry. Yeah, we'll never know.
It's okay.
We'll never know.
I guess there's really no way to find out.
No. Not unless somebody goes and digs up that well, just to be sure.
Dig up the well. Do it. All right. Well, like a suspicious Finnish man, it's time to fill this one in with a lot of concrete and maybe put a little bit of sod over it.
Yeah, the ass man has spoken.
As the morning dawns on another episode of Anything Bones, the ass man crows his guilty, guilty voice across the Finnish countryside, and somewhere a Japanese ghost is wishing a businessman a good trip.
Well, thanks for coming on this journey with us. We went from Japan to Finland to outer space.
Hell yeah. If you enjoyed this episode or our podcast in general, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get higher up in the charts and the algorithms, and it lets the robot overlords know that you enjoy the podcast and other people might enjoy it too. We have mugs on offer.
And t-shirts. So head on over to our store on Bonfire. It's linked in the show notes. So you can just click it, baby.
Yes, precious baby. Click the link.
Click the link, baby, and sip your yum-yums out of our coffee mugs. Keep it all in.
This one got weird.
Keep it all in.
I will. And, of course, there's one last thing that we must say. Bon voyage! Safe travels, sailors!
Ta-ta for now.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful boney artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Who is that guy?
Megabone.